In the world of digital fortunes, not all wealth comes without a price. Tonight, we dive into a chilling tale of greed, the dark web, and a cursed coin that brought riches and unimaginable terror. But before we begin, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you never miss a haunting story like this. And don't forget to share with your friends. After all, some stories are too terrifying to keep to yourself. Now, let's begin. Sometimes, the search for fortune can lead to unimaginable consequences. We all dream of becoming rich, of escaping the struggles of daily life. But what happens when wealth comes too easily? What if behind every dollar, behind every success, there's a hidden price waiting to be paid? Tonight, we'll dive into the haunting tale of a man named Ethan, who discovered the true cost of his curiosity and greed. Ethan sat hunched over his desk, the glow of his computer screen illuminating his tired eyes. He was 29, stuck in a job that was slowly eating away at his soul and watching his dreams slip further and further away. But tonight was different. Tonight, his life was about to change. Ethan had always been fascinated by digital currencies, or what we call it, cryptocurrency. The strange and mysterious world where fortunes were made and lost in the blink of an eye. He had dabbled in it before, but never with much success. Yet, on this particular night, his small investment had suddenly exploded in value. The numbers on his screen were climbing faster than he could comprehend. In mere hours, he had gone from barely scraping by to sitting on a fortune. It didn't seem real. Ethan checked, refreshed, and checked again, but the numbers didn't lie. His mind raced. This was the break he had been waiting for, the miracle that would finally pull him out of the mundane grind of his daily life. And just like that, he was rich. He sat back, stunned. His phone buzzed with notifications, emails, messages, people already wanting to get a piece of his newfound fortune. It was overwhelming, but along with the rush of excitement, there was something else, something he couldn't quite shake. A nagging feeling, like a shadow lurking just behind the glow of his success. Shrugging it off, Ethan allowed himself to savor the moment. He imagined quitting his job, buying a luxurious apartment, and never having to worry about money again. This was it. His life had just changed forever. The days that followed felt like a dream. He walked into his boss's office, handed in his resignation, and left without a second thought. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about freedom, control, and a new life filled with endless possibilities. But as the excitement of his sudden wealth began to settle, that lingering feeling of emptiness grew. Ethan couldn't figure out what was wrong. He had everything he'd ever wanted, but something was still missing, and no amount of spending could fill that void. One night, while aimlessly scrolling through the internet, he stumbled upon an obscure forum, a place that discussed the hidden corners of the web. And then he saw it. Those 3 words that would change everything. The dark web. It was a phrase he'd heard before, but had never dared to explore. His heart raced as he read about secret markets, hidden sites, and forbidden items that could only be found in the shadows of the internet. It was a world few people dared to venture into, but those who did claimed to have found things that were impossible to imagine. Ethan's curiosity ignited. He had the money now. He could buy anything he wanted, so why not push the boundaries? Why not see what this secret world had to offer? With trembling fingers, Ethan followed the digital breadcrumbs deeper into the dark web. He scrolled past sites selling illegal substances, counterfeit goods. It was a twisted and unsettling place, but it was the thrill he'd been looking for. Dangerous, forbidden and tantalizing. And then, tucked between the lines of shady deals and encrypted messages, he found it. Unlocked the secret to infinite wealth. The listing was cryptic. No flashy ads, no detailed descriptions, just a single line of text promising riches beyond imagination. Ethan's heart pounded as he stared at the screen. Could this be real? Could there be something hidden in the dark web that would take his wealth to an even higher level? His mind screamed caution, but the temptation was too strong. He had come this far, hadn't he? Why not go a little further? With one final click, he committed. Whatever this secret was, he was willing to pay the price. After all, he had everything he could ever want, or so he thought. Little did Ethan know he had just opened the door to something far darker than wealth, something that would soon come knocking, demanding far more than he was ever willing to give. Ethan's hands trembled slightly as he clicked the button, finalizing his purchase on the dark web. He'd spent hours reading about the mysterious promise, unlocked the secret to infinite wealth. No description, no details, but his curiosity had devoured his caution. The cryptic message hinted at something far beyond what his riches had already brought him. Whatever it was, he couldn't resist. A few days later, a small unmarked package arrived at his doorstep. No labels, no return address. It was so ordinary, yet so unnerving. He ripped the box open, and inside lay a single item, a small, ancient-looking coin. The surface was etched with strange symbols, almost as if they were shifting under the dim light. There was also a handwritten note, scrawled in messy, jagged handwriting. Curiosity comes at a price. Handle with care. Ethan chuckled nervously. Was this a joke? The idea of unlocking infinite wealth through some old coin seemed ridiculous. He tossed it onto his desk and ignored the warning. But as the night wore on, the coin seemed to pull his gaze back toward it. It sat there, unmoving, but somehow alive. Something about it unsettled him, but he shook off the feeling. Days passed, and with each passing moment, strange things began to happen. First, Ethan's cryptocurrency portfolio surged in ways that defied explanation. Even the riskiest investments turned profitable, beyond what was rational. His wealth multiplied, and suddenly he was richer than he'd ever imagined. It was like a miracle. The coin must have been the key after all, right? But then, the other things started. It began with nightmares. Dark, vivid dreams of shadowy figures surrounding him, whispering his name. The whispers were cold, like a draft creeping into his very soul, and they left him drenched in sweat. Ethan would wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, only to find the coin gleaming faintly on his desk. And each time, the symbols seemed different, more menacing, more alive. Soon the shadows from his dreams started bleeding into reality. Out of the corner of his eye, Ethan would catch glimpses of figures standing in the corners of rooms, always just outside his direct vision. But every time he turned to look, they vanished. He tried to convince himself it was just exhaustion, stress from the wealth he was managing, the paranoia of knowing he had so much to lose. But deep down, he knew it was something more. The coin, once just an object, now felt like a curse, a presence that followed him wherever he went. His lavish new apartment, once a symbol of his success, felt more like a prison, with eyes watching him from every corner. The shadows weren't leaving. One evening, desperate for relief, he grabbed the coin and tried to throw it away. But the moment it left his hand, the room chilled to the bone. His breath fogged up in front of him, and the shadows. They weren't just in the corners anymore. They were moving closer, whispering louder. In pure panic, Ethan snatched the coin back, and immediately the room returned to normal, but the shadows remained, lingering just out of reach, waiting for something. What had he done? What had he unleashed? Ethan collapsed into his chair, staring at the cursed object in his hand. The promises of infinite wealth had turned into a nightmare far worse than anything he could have imagined. He knew deep in his bones that he had crossed a line. And now, there was no going back. Ethan barely slept anymore. Every time he closed his eyes, the nightmares returned. The shadowy figures, the whispers that grew louder each night. But now, it wasn't just in his sleep. The shadows moved in the corners of every room, flickering like living nightmares, and always watching. Desperate, Ethan tried to go about his daily life, but even in the daylight, he couldn't escape the creeping dread. His once overflowing wealth was now the last thing on his mind, as the terror grew stronger with each passing hour. It wasn't until one morning, while checking his cryptocurrency portfolio, that he noticed something strange. The insane gains he had been making since acquiring the coin had come to a screeching halt. His investments, once growing beyond belief, had suddenly begun to collapse. Ethan stared in disbelief as his wealth bled away, like sand slipping through his fingers. He panicked, frantically trying to salvage what was left, but nothing worked. Every move he made only seemed to worsen the losses. His fortune, the one thing that had once made him feel invincible, was disappearing faster than he could comprehend. And as the numbers on his screen plummeted, the shadows around him seemed to grow darker, closer, more menacing. The whispers that had once been faint, distant murmurs were now crystal clear. They spoke his name, over and over, echoing in his ears. Ethan, Ethan. But it wasn't just his wealth. Strange accidents began to plague his life. A small fire broke out in his apartment, burning through his most valuable belongings. Then his car was stolen from his building's secure garage. Worst of all, his bank accounts froze without warning, leaving him penniless in a matter of days. Everything was slipping out of his control, and no matter what he did, the curse followed him. Ethan was falling apart, his body growing weak from sleepless nights and constant fear. He knew there was only one explanation. It was the coin, the cursed coin. One night, after yet another failed attempt to stop the financial bleeding, he grabbed the coin in a fit of rage. He had to get rid of it. He had to break free from whatever horror it had unleashed on his life. He ran to the window, preparing to throw it out into the night. But as soon as he lifted his arm, the shadows surged around him, swarming like black smoke, choking the air. His hand froze, unable to let go of the coin. The whispers were louder than ever now, deafening, filling the room. You can't escape. The price must be paid. With trembling hands, Ethan dropped to the floor, clutching the cursed object. His heart raced, and tears blurred his vision as he realized there was no way out. The coin had brought him unimaginable wealth, but now it was collecting its toll. And the price was far more than just his money. The shadows, now fully formed figures, moved toward him, their voices piercing his mind. Ethan curled into himself, trying to block out the sounds, but they only grew louder, relentless. The room was freezing, the air thick with a sense of impending doom. He stared at the coin in his hand, the symbols now glowing faintly in the dark. The ancient text seemed to shift, as if alive, mocking him. The promise of infinite wealth had turned into infinite torment, and no amount of riches could buy him back his peace. The shadows drew closer still, their whispers like nails on a chalkboard. The price must be paid. Ethan was drowning, not in water but in shadows, thick, cold, suffocating shadows that filled every corner of his once luxurious apartment. The figures now moved freely around him, their whispers filling the air, swirling like a black storm around his mind. He hadn't slept in days, his body weakened, his thoughts fragmented. His once unimaginable wealth was all but gone, and all that remained was the cursed coin, still clutched tightly in his trembling hands. He needed answers. Desperate for a way out, Ethan turned to the only place that could have known more: the dark web. He logged back into the hidden corners of the internet, back to the marketplace where he had found the mysterious coin. The words from the listing haunted him: "Unlock the secret to infinite wealth." What they hadn't said was that this wealth came at a cost that couldn't be reversed. Scrolling through endless pages of hidden, forbidden transactions, he searched for the seller, hoping, praying that there was a way to undo what he had done. Finally, he found a single message waiting for him in his inbox. "The price was always yours to pay. There is no turning back. The shadows have claimed you." Ethan stared at the message, his heart sinking into his chest. No turning back. The shadows have claimed him. He felt the room grow colder, the air thickening around him like a weight pressing down on his chest. It was hopeless. He had invited this curse into his life, and now it was here to stay. He looked around at the shadows, the dark figures that stood at the edges of the room, no longer just whispers, but almost solid now, their eyes, if they even had eyes, fixated on him. He couldn't take it anymore. The fear, the paranoia, the haunting whispers. It was too much. In a final act of desperation, Ethan threw the coin to the ground and grabbed a hammer from his toolbox. He swung down with all his strength, trying to shatter the cursed object. But the hammer bounced off, the coin remaining completely intact, as if mocking his attempt to break free. The shadows surged toward him, wrapping around his body like cold tendrils of smoke. He screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the thick, black air. The whispers became a cacophony, 1,000 voices all speaking at once, filling his mind with an unbearable noise. He felt them pulling him, dragging him down into the darkness. Ethan's vision blurred, the world fading as the shadows closed in. He tried to fight, but it was useless. The coin had sealed his fate, and now it was taking everything from him: his wealth, his mind, his very existence. It all belonged to the darkness now, and just like that, Ethan was gone. Days later, the police were called to Ethan's apartment after his neighbors reported strange noises and a foul smell. When they arrived, they found the place completely abandoned. His once extravagant home was left in ruins, with no trace of Ethan anywhere. The only thing out of place was a small, ancient-looking coin lying on the floor in the center of the room, its strange symbols glowing faintly in the dark. The case was closed as a mysterious disappearance. Some said he fled after losing his fortune, others believed he was hiding from something darker. But the truth was far more terrifying. Legends began to spread online, stories of a cursed coin being passed along through the dark web. Some claimed it brought great wealth, but all agreed on one thing: those who took it never escaped the shadows that followed. And somewhere, deep in the dark web, that same coin waited for its next victim, ready to offer its twisted promise once again: unlock the secret to infinite wealth. And that, my friends, is the chilling tale of Ethan, who learned that some fortunes come with a price far greater than money. I hope you enjoyed this journey into the dark corners of curiosity and greed. Thank you so much for watching and sticking with me till the end. I'll be back soon with even more spine-tingling stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, Activate the bell so you never miss a new story, and share it with your friends. After all, these tales are meant to be told. Until next time.